Welcome everyone to the Final Point podcast. I am your host, Adriel, with my co host, Josh, in the
We
building
are
today.
back.
We are back. Happy Merry Christmas. New Year's is coming up. We had a small break for the holidays, and we are now back to cover on some quick topics that we have here today. The topics here today are going to be Jimmy is staying for now. For now.
Don't hold your
Uh,
breath.
are the Celtics going to make a move at the deadline? Do they need to improve? The Houston Rockets, are they a true playoff contender? And just the news that we just heard yesterday, Mike Brown has been fired from the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's go ahead and start with Jimmy is staying, ladies and gentlemen. It's official from Pat Riley. He made a statement out the other day. They are not trading him. Forget what Shams has been telling you and all of ESPN and
Right,
First Take.
right.
It's not happening, guys. It doesn't even make sense. He is staying. What's your thoughts, Josh?
I think that this is just right up the whole Miami delusional thing that you guys got going on over there for the last couple years. Do you think, Adriel, let me ask you this. Do you think if Jimmy is traded at the deadline, do you think Pat Riley will be the only GM that would have lied and said that someone is not available for a trade? Do you think he's better off coming off saying, yes, we are looking for a trade? You know how much chaos that would cause in the locker room? Isn't it better to say that Jimmy's
Exactly.
staying than to say that
Yeah.
Jimmy's leaving?
This
Right.
has been my thoughts on
Right,
it.
right. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
exactly. This has been my
Of course,
thoughts.
he has to say that.
Yeah, as a GM, that's his
Yeah.
job to keep the peace and to enforce the law upon the team. Like I am the guy who's going to be doing the trading here, not anyone
Right.
else. I understand that, but my whole notion to this and still has it doesn't make sense for this team to get rid of their best player when they're not going to receive a player of the same caliber or a better player in return, which
But how
is
do you
not
know
going to
that
happen.
that's not going to happen?
It's not going to happen.
But that's what I'm
And I'm
saying. But we don't know what realistically, what is the market right now for a Jimmy Butler? And we're not even talking about injured Jimmy, because sometimes teams, not sometimes, often teams take into account what the player used to be like. Because there be
correct.
some trades sometimes that happening, but like that dude hasn't even been good in the past 2 seasons. But they're hoping that he is that guy. So if you're
Exactly.
trading for a Jimmy Butler, I think Jimmy is at the end of his prime. Okay, I mean, can we say that?
He is
He
definitely
has a
on the
good
decline.
he has 2 seasons left in him. I think that he can give you his all.
Yeah, 2-3 for sure.
So the market would have to be a team that is in contention. It would have to move the needle, and I don't think Jimmy moves the needle on any team. Does he?
Uh, he does in a way, but what this is coming down to is a money situation, and Jimmy wants the money. Now, there are not a lot of teams right now due to cap situations and all that are willing to give him the money that he's searching for.
Hey,
Now,
do you think that we're gonna get an email from Jimmy's agent telling us to stop talking shit?
hey, we're not talking shit right now. As of right now, we are talking facts.
What if it's not
And
about the money?
and okay, it could
Right,
be. But if it wasn't about the money, he would have opted into his contract and just taken the money he was going to receive next season and been done with it.
right.
Now,
Fair point.
eh, the whole he is searching for the money, and there are only two teams that are probably willing to give him. Now, I'm gonna say three teams that are willing to give him that money that can for sure give him the money. We got the Brooklyn Nets, the Pistons, and Washington. No other team is going to give him an extra 56, 60 mil for his production right now. And not only that, this whole situation is hurting him and his market more than it's hurting Miami's market right now, because Miami is still scrapping for wins, and for the most part we got a good Tyler Hero. Bam is having a weird year, but we, as all Heat fans do, we have belief that he's going to stabilize at some point throughout the season. So I mean, we are not in the worst spots that we've been in before, but For if Jimmy wants to improve his market, he needs to play. He needs to play and have at least a decent season this year. So when the offseason comes in, if he wants to leave and go get that money, hey man, go ahead. Thanks for everything and opt out and be a free agent. But I know for a fact Pat Riley is not going to trade him in the middle of the season. It's not, and if they do go with a trade, it's going to be in the offseason, is how I see this.
Jimmy's being traded in the Jimmy being traded at the deadline depends on Jimmy's availability. Teams are not going to trade for an injured Jimmy Butler, especially if they're looking to make a push in the playoffs and having Jimmy make that difference.
Mhm.
Jimmy's best. Listen, Jimmy's path right now is going to be to. Unfortunately for him, due to injuries, he's going to have to. If it's not in Miami, he's going to have to sign somewhere else for a 1-year deal, similar to what Kyrie did. You remember Kyrie didn't get the extension he wanted from Brooklyn? You remember that?
Yep.
And then he ended up going to Dallas, and then they took a chance on him, and then they eventually just gave him what he deserved and what he was worth.
Correct.
We all knew Kyrie was worth that at the time in Brooklyn, given all the drama and all of Kyrie's unavailability, especially during COVID. We didn't know if people forgot Kyrie was worth that. And now we got to go. Jimmy's in the same situation. He has to prove that he's still Jimmy. And I think Jimmy got 2 seasons left in him. He's going to have to go to another team, sign a 1-year deal, and bet on himself. And I think Jimmy, if anybody can do that, Jimmy could.
I agree. But my only thing with that is that Kyrie has made himself more available than Jimmy has so far in the last 2 years.
Right.
And I mean, at this point in Jimmy's
But it
career,
just happened to be that way because
Yeah.
what if Kyrie would have pulled the same shit he was pulling in Brooklyn to Dallas? Now they're kind of in a bind. He
Correct.
hasn't. And hopefully
Jim,
Jimmy's doing the same thing.
Jimmy has had like legitimate injuries, which has held him back.
That's why I said
Kyrie had a
unfortunately
lot
for
of
him.
like some personal stuff
Yeah.
and things like that, the controversy stuff. But for the most part, the main issue with Jimmy right now in his career is staying healthy and being able to stay on the court. I mean, this last game, it seemed like he got an ankle twist and then he was sick and now he's reconditioning to come back. I mean, it's just a bunch of things all the time. And as of right now, I feel like he's made himself less available this year than last year. So it's this weird cycle with him every year during the regular season, in and out, issues always going on. But from what I'm gonna say, just to put a stamp on this topic, is, and to the Heat fan base, listen, guys, we need to understand reality. And if this is the way he wants to take
You already
it,
asked so much from Heat fans. You said I understand reality.
yeah, I know it's a hard thing to do sometimes, but we need to understand that if this guy wants to leave, we need to let him leave, is basically what I'm trying to say. If he wants to leave, we need to let him leave, say thank you for all the great moments we've had, and just move on, because it's not the ending of the world. We don't have a Rodney Magruder on the team, or like a Tyler Johnson. It's like, we don't have that. We got some great rookies, and we got Bam still on the team, locked in, and we have a potential all-star Tyler Hero this year that made a leap. So I mean,
I like the optimistic, man.
the tunnel is bright. Now, if that does happen, will we, go down maybe for the next 2 years? Yeah, maybe. But we still have one of the best coaches in the league, one of the best GMs in the league.
Debatable.
So
Both
just
is debatable right now. But yes.
but like, it's not over, guys. It's not over.
It isn't over. There's still light at the end of the tunnel, is what you're saying.
But what I will say as well, if you're the Heat and Jimmy is willing to stay, find a good happy medium for you guys. Sign him back for the next 2 years or 1 year. Run the team as best as you can, and just say, bon voyage into the sunset, and just accept what we got, because it's either we stay with a player that can elevate us during playoff time, or we don't, and we just run with what we got. So I mean, that's That's really where we're at right now for the Heat. Now we're gonna
I
shift.
think before we leave out, I think
Mhm.
that Jimmy will be gone by February. If there's a good enough
Interesting.
offer, I think someone will take a chance on him.
And that's kind of the thing too that I've been kind of having discussions online is if they were really going to trade him, don't you think if they had a really good offer they would have already gotten done with
Especially,
how
but
with
he has
how the season has been panning out too, 15 and 13, battling 500 and losing some really bad games so far this year. I mean, if there was if there let's say if there was a team like OKC with the amount of picks and everything and they made us a great offer for him. Don't I feel like if Pat Riley received that offer, he might have already pulled the gun by now because now we're just having more distractions.
no. That's what I'm saying. I don't think so. How many picks does Miami have to offer? Do they have any
Zero,
first round picks?
I like one.
They got one because it could be maybe the opposite. They could be a team just looking to just kind of move on from someone who the Heat can potentially value, and include Jimmy with a pick or Jimmy with another player that's their actual target. If you include Jovic in there or a Jaquez, Jimmy Jaquez and Jovic for a player that was not that the team was not planning to extend anyways. So like, look, we're gonna get this back in a pick, and if it works out, then if we get the old Jimmy, then we get the old Jimmy. If now we got Jovic, we got
Mhm.
Jaquez, and they move on. What kind of player that is, that I don't know. Off the
Yeah,
top, I can't think of a player right now that would fit in Miami that you can trade for the Jimmy that I see in the past that I've seen in the past 2 seasons. I
if
don't know.
if it is in any shape, way, or form, it's gonna have to be like a De'Aaron Fox trade, but it would that would have to be a three team
It would have
deal
to be a
for
lot more
sure.
involved. And if
And
the money,
honestly, real quick, I honestly think that even if Jimmy gets traded, it's gonna have to be a three-team deal
yeah, there's
because
gonna
we
be
don't
other
have the
teams involved.
assets.
I really wish that that whole deal with Bradley Beal went down, that it didn't go down, because Bradley Beal would actually be a good fit in Miami if you pair him with that squad now and just take off Jimmy. Or even if you could find a way to get Beal with Jimmy and Bam, and then and then kind of give it a hero, but Beal in Miami next to Bam works. But I
I
mean, I don't
think
know
it
what kind of
works if
version you Bam.
yeah, I think that would have worked maybe 2 years ago, but right now I don't think that ends
Yeah.
up working.
Hey,
But
even
we're
if you
gonna have
guys
to
are
see.
bad, man, I mean, it always it's always good when the Miami Heat are doing bad for us. Keeps their fans in check.
What at some point we're gonna somehow make it to a first round matchup, probably more than likely. Let's let's pivot now to our next topic, your specialty. Josh, do the Celtics make a move at the deadline? Do they need to make some improvements or plug some holes?
Right now, they sometimes remind me of the 2022 Miami Heat. I mean, the 2022 Boston Celtics team. It's so hard to tell with them, because when they're all playing together, what I mean by that is Kristaps, Jalen Brown, Tatum, Drew Holiday, and D White. When they're all together and they're all making their shots, everything is just looking great for us. The repeat is there. I can see it happening, and then they just turn into this team where it's like they forget how to play basketball. And the other night they were playing, I think it was a loss versus the Pistons, where they remember that they can drive, and then they actually started driving in and actually scoring. So it's like they fall in love with these 3 pointers, and it really makes me think: d- does there have to be a change in the lineup to where maybe they start to think, let's do this another way offensively? Because when it's not working, it's just not. But sometimes, I mean, for instance, yesterday's game, dude, they dominated, absolutely dominated that game.
Jalen Brown.
I mean, so do you want to tweak that with a move at the deadline? I don't know, but Kristaps is just not. He's not as healthy as I was hoping he would be, man. And the fact is, we're like you know, bad landing off of a rebound for Kristaps being out for the season because this guy just made of glass. So, do you find a team that can take a chance on Kristaps, or do you move some of the other pieces? Pritchard is very valuable piece. I think Pritchard can be a starting point guard on any other team in the league. Paying Pritchard in the right situation, he is, if not on the same level as a Fred Van Fleet. What Van Fleet is for the Rockets, that's what Pritchard is for the Celtics. His size, he's tenacious. His shot is just looking really sharp this season. I think that if you make a move, it has to be Pritchard and somebody else. And I don't know if we want to do that because I mean we have to have some depth. But Kristaps is just not his injuries lately are just not making me feel better about this back to back.
Um, I say that some of the issues I've been observing from the Celtics this year, and it's good that you make a comparison to that 2022 team because it's that team was great, but they that was their main issues. They made really bad
Yeah, and we
decisions.
used to blow a lot of games. Remember, we blew a lot of
Yeah,
leads.
yeah, and I mean, I think what it comes down to, at least for this championship team, is that I think they're kind of right now in that point of the regular season where they're just a little too comfortable. But I don't think they need to make any moves. I think that they're fine the way they are and they'll figure it out. As crazy as Joe Mazzulla is, he will somehow manage to make this team, fall back in line. I just feel like, some nights they just come out and they're just like, well, maybe we'll just blow them out of with just some threes. We'll shoot like 18 threes a game, and we'll just kill teams. And sometimes that doesn't happen, and that kind of bites them, in the ass at the endings of the game. I don't think there's really a roster issue now. Kristaps, I'm with you. I agree on that. I don't think he's fully healthy yet. I think give him some time, he'll kind of settle in again and find his sweet spot. But I mean, I really don't think they need to make any moves. I still to this day, man, I still say it. I haven't seen the Celtics team look completely hopeless in any of these games, even when they're going against any of the harder teams. They don't look frantic like how I've seen them before, or bad turnovers half the time. I just feel like sometimes the Celtics run into this regular season course where they kind of, they'll kind of
Yeah,
just lose a bunch of games, and
yeah,
then once we come back from All-Star break, the real Boston Celtics come out and you see them make that playoff push. And I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen
that's what's
this
gonna
year.
happen. Yeah,
I feel like give it till like after All-Star break and you're going to see them go on this crazy run again. And and they're going to take that number 1 seed in the East.
and if there's no move made by the deadline, even if it's like a minor tweak, it's just because Brad Stevens is thinking the same thing. Like, look, we're gonna be okay.
I think maybe he might shed some salary off, get a second round pick and for the future along those lines. That's maybe I see them making maybe just a small acquisition, some young player or some two-way contract of some sorts.
I do know that eventually we're gonna have to part ways with D White
Hmm.
and or Drew Holiday.
For
That
sure.
that I do know because what you don't want to happen is miss the opportunity to fleece a team for a prime Derek White because you have a Tatum and a Brown locked in,
Hmm.
right? And you could just build off of those two. So Stevens, I think, is smart enough to know when to make that move, and depending on how this season ends, we may see that card being dealt, and
Yep.
it's definitely going to be something that no Celtics fan is going to want to read about. We're not going to want to know that's even a possibility, but we do have to come to the reality that a prime Derek White and a prime Payne Pritchard, what can you get back for those? And if you can get back a lot more to pair around Tatum and Brown in their prime,
Hmm.
Why not do that? Just to kind of keep this thing going, because those two are the catalyst. That those are, it's all built around them. Without those two, it doesn't work.
For sure.
And you have to keep those two together. And shedding salary is just it's just the reality of it. You can't This thing can't go forever. So one of those got to go. I don't see that happening this trade deadline.
Yeah, Brad Stevens. I mean, he's one of the best GMs in the league. I know that he doubled down on this team for a reason. Um, so everything, I feel like he has planned well and ahead. He's got a plan for the future. He knows when he's gonna have to make this move, and like you said, I mean, Derek White's been having a great year so far for the most part. And a lot of teams would love a on-ball perimeter defender of his sorts who can score the ball and hit the three at a high clip. So,
Tell me
I
now,
mean,
man.
yeah. As much as I hate him so much with every part
But
of my body,
why, dude? First of all, dude,
sometimes
you
you
gotta
have
let
to
go of
hate.
that, man. I
No, no,
mean,
no.
the kid, the
I
guy
have a
is
little
so
bit.
unhateable.
I have given him as much credit all the time. I recognize he is one of the best on-ball defenders. His defense is amazing, but man, as a Heat fan, you hate this guy. You just have to hate him. It reminds me of back when Kobe used to play. Like you love Kobe because he's so great, but man, when you're
I
going up
know
against
there
Kobe,
was,
you have to hate him.
dude.
Have to.
Kobe's one of my favorite of all time, man. But I
Same.
definitely, my hate for Kobe during those Celtics, Lakers finals, it really does, man.
Yeah.
Especially, him winning, him winning one on us, man. That really hurt.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes these players make some type of these dagger plays every time that just hatred builds up, and that's what Derek White has done to me. I have built up a lot of hate for him, a lot.
And then he somehow ends up on the Heat.
I would take him on the Heat. Actually, he can fit. He definitely fits. But I don't. We'll see. We'll see.
There you go.
All right, we're gonna shift now to the Houston Rockets, a
League pass
developing
favorite.
yes, a developing young team who's come up and now in the West. They're third in the West now, at currently sitting at 21-10. And I mean, they did lose by one last night against Minnesota
Good game.
because because Anthony Edwards says he does not do overtime. Um, he's just, this team has really sharpened up with Ime Udoka, with his coaching presence and all the young guys they currently have right now. I mean,
Yeah.
this team is looking really great. And like you said, I mean, they are, a league pass favorite right now. They have performed a lot better than I thought they were going to perform this season. So now the real question comes into play. Can they be a real playoff contender? And I think that they can, off of what I've seen, just off of them playing in the in-season tournament this year. I mean, they are a scrappy team, a very scrappy team. And in the playoffs, that's what you need. That's what's going to win you games, maybe steal a few in these playoff games coming up. And you have Ime, who is well respected and respected for his defense. So I mean, he's got these guys playing in line, man. They are a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, he really does. This team is coming together at the right time. That trade for Van Fleet, I mean not that trade, that signing of Van Fleet, when it happened, I was kind of questioning it, like that doesn't really move anything. But then the Alperen Sengun, and then you draft Jabari Smith, you draft Amon Thompson, you draft Jalen Green, and you're hoping that it's not one of those situations where we got to end up dealing some of these guys before we get to see their potential. They're
Mhm.
seeing their potential now, and it's all coming together, man. That team reminds me of a very hungry 2007 Warriors team that upset the Mavs, the 1 versus the 8 seed. It's gonna be one of those situations. I'm not saying that the Rockets are gonna be that low seeded, but what I'm saying is they're gonna shock a couple teams,
I think so.
because on any given night it could be any one of those guys. And Alperen Sengun, last season, I used to say, man, this guy, he reminds me kind of like a Jokic,
Smaller.
but just a smaller version of Jokic. Um, Last season he had two triple doubles. This season he already has three, and we're midway. We're at the midway point. All right, Sengun is getting better and better. Jalen Green still needs some work. Jalen Green really pissed me off yesterday. I added him to my banned parlay list because he's an idiot and he can't score 1 point with 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. But that's a whole nother subject. But Jalen Green does need work, man. But Amon Thompson, man, is coming along, and Jabari Smith. They're still young. All of this team is very young still.
Hmm.
And like you said, Ime Udoka got them playing good. This is my favorite League Pass team to watch. I think they're gonna surprise a few people come playoff time. I'm looking forward to see what this team turns into because they're already much better than last season. And I'm looking forward to see which one of these players really emerges as the next star. And it's looking like Alperen Sengun, man. He's the real deal. He's kind of deceiving, like he doesn't really look like he's that fast, but he's
He's very
strong.
shifty.
Post game, he can pass. It's just a matter of time till he starts, draining threes. He's the real deal. I like the Rockets. Yeah, let's see what happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, Sengun kind of has a Franz Wagner type,
Yeah,
play style to him, which I really enjoy watching. Those type of play styles, that Euro League type play styles. I love watching it. Um, but and like you said, I mean, Amon Thompson, he's got incredible upside. I mean, he's still a rookie, so we have to see what he develops into. He could be a great wing for them. Um, and Jalen Green, he just needs to sharpen up his shot diet. Uh, kind of get better with turnovers as well because he gets also a lot in foul trouble.
yeah. He's
And
just he's just not really that polished right now. I
yeah,
mean,
he kind of
more than he
reminds me
could
of like
be.
a unpolished Lamelo Ball, pretty much. Is how I kind of see him. They're kind of like almost the same type of player in ways, but I
he,
mean,
he he needs to settle his game down. Like he's so
yes,
good, he's so athletic. There's so much that he could do, but he needs to just settle it down and just kind of like create an identity for himself. Like what player am I gonna be? Am I gonna be a high flying dude? Am I gonna be a mid
a
range
two
guy?
way, yeah,
We don't know what he's gonna be yet. But once he turns into that, look out because he's that good and
hmm,
scary athletic. But Udoka is the perfect coach for him right now because this is what he needs. He needs discipline.
yeah,
He can't just be
and
running wild out there just chucking up shots.
and this is also a type of coach that can help him improve defensively. And I'm with you, man. I'm excited to see what they do for the trade deadline because I
Potential
know they
landing
have
spot for Jimmy,
potentially. If Shams is right, yes, potentially could be.
dude.
That it's a
Amon
very scrappy
Thompson,
team.
dude. First of
We haven't
all,
even we haven't even brought in the Dylan Brooks. I mean, they got
and we haven't even what we have brought up last season. We were talking about Cam Whitmore.
yeah.
Cam Whitmore is the real deal. He just hasn't been unleashed yet.
Hmm.
You adding Cam Whitmore to a package with Amon Thompson and maybe like a pick or another player, that's a promising package because I think Amon Thompson is going to be that good.
Could be, yeah.
He's going to be that good, dude. On the
He's
defensive end, he is a beast. He had a
very
block on Anthony Edwards last night. He came out of nowhere and just sent that to the audience.
him and his brother are incredibly athletic and long too. It's pretty insane that they're both good defensively that way.
Any team would want to acquire that piece.
I think right now, the way the NBA is shifting with long, talented wings, yeah, that's probably what everyone else is thinking as well. Yeah, man, we have to see how this Rockets team. We have to see what goes down in the trade deadline. I know they're going to be suitors looking for them. Um, but yeah, they're a really fun team. I think they can be currently right now. They are a playoff contender.
Yeah.
We just have to see how it pans out after the All Star break. But let's go ahead and move on to the final topic. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Brown is fired from the head coach of this Sacramento Kings. It's pretty crazy that they go from a year of a playoff drought for like 15 to 20 years. They get this guy, he comes in, revitalizes everything. Light the beam happens, and they had a hard fought first like a playoff matchup, and if it wasn't the Warriors, they potentially could have won that round. And now they came back this year with DeRozan added on, and they've had some frustrating losses this year. But I mean, for the most part, if I don't understand this move, I really don't. I mean, this is a guy who has pretty much brought your whole franchise out of the dirt, and I don't see why you wouldn't stick with that after just some, a slightly rough year. You still have you know, all of your pieces. De'Aaron Fox is still a question mark, but for the most part, you still have a pretty young, inspiring team. To get rid of a coach like Mike Brown is definitely a weird, a weird way to go. But I don't know. I don't think this is a good move for the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, listen, it's always going to be that way, right? When you win games, it's because of the stars, right? It's because of the team, and when you lose, it's the coach. It's never going to be different. And we saw this now with Mike Brown. Something's been off with the Kings. I've been saying this all season long. I don't know what's going on with them. They have the same exact team, and they added DeMar DeRozan, and they're looking worse. They've had some really tough. You said it. They had some tough losses, but you would think adding DeRozan would only help. I mean, I had them coming out of the as one of the top 5 teams in the West.
For sure.
I've always liked the Kings. I like the way
Yeah.
they're structured. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis have like a nice little duo going, and then you add all the other pieces that they have. It was, they were a good team, and I thought this season they were going to take that step, and they haven't. And maybe the front office for the Kings are saying maybe let's see if Mike Brown is the problem, which I don't think Mike Brown is the problem. But you're going to have another coach come in, right? Whole new mindset, change the offense around, and it's most likely going to work. Will it win them a championship? No, but they're going to look better, and it's going to look like it was Mike Brown's fault.
The most interesting thing that I have been seeing, of course, these are just rumors and internet talk and whatever, but some people actually wonder if maybe this was a fallout between him and De'Aaron Fox. And maybe this was just, the general manager trying to keep De'Aaron Fox happy to kind of get him to stay in Sacramento instead of, heading out. But we really don't know any information as to why or what. Mike Brown had a weird kind of press conference afterwards talking about accountability and staying with the ship and things like that. And it seems like there was something personal that was brewing either between the players or the association. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, another good coach has been fired. We're talking about a coach of the year. He was coach of the year like what, 24 months ago, 12 months ago. I mean,
Yeah, no, he's definitely gonna land on his feet. He's gonna have another job. It just goes to show you, man, that it is about these players, and let's be honest, fans ain't coming to watch Mike Brown on the sideline.
That is true.
They're coming to watch De'Aaron Fox. They're coming to watch the product that's on the court, and right now that product hasn't looked that good. And Mike Brown got to be the fall guy for it. But like I said, he'll land on his feet. He'll find another job. It's just the loyalty with the coaches is just crazy when it comes to them just being able to be fired right after a practice and having a press conference, and then you fire the guy. It's just no one's safe.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a weird choice in my opinion, but
Right.
I guess we'll see in the coming
Because
days.
I tell you what, if that was me, and if first of all, if they already knew they were gonna fire him, they should have just told him before the practice. If like, let's say I go to work, a different line of work, and I go and I do a whole meeting with my team, right? I'm supervised. I do a whole meeting with my team, get them all revved up for the week coming, to discuss potential changes on how we could be better, more productive, and then I'm fired after, and they knew that the whole time. I'm pissed. I could have just stayed
course.
home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't bring me in for that. Like, you should have just told me yesterday.
Or give the practice off to us, to the second coach, and just do it privately. And I don't know. That's a weird situation, but I guess we'll find out more information as the days go by.
I'm sure we will.
to see what
I'm
comes
sure
out.
Sham's accurate reporting will Shed some light
We'll
on this.
dispel everything going on. But all right, guys, that's currently all we have for today. This is the final podcast, more than likely, of the year. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next year on the Final Point podcast.
Peace.